Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to this month's Twin Cities Immigration Forum. My name is Michelle Rivero. I am the Director of the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs for the City of Minneapolis. And I will just quickly kick us off, and then we'll turn the mic over to my counterpart in St. Paul to introduce himself. This is a monthly meeting co-hosted by the City of Minneapolis Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs and the City of St. Paul Immigrant and Refugee Program to address topics of interest and concern to immigrant and refugee residents and individuals and organizations that serve immigrant and refugee community members. And Edmundo, I'm not sure if you're yet on with us, but if you are, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself, please. I know that Edmundo was in transit and so might not have the ability to unmute just yet. So we'll just start with the agenda. We have a lot of news for you today. We're really grateful to have so many participants joining us today and sharing news that they have. I've put the agenda into the chat and we'll start with some excellent news from our honorary consul for Brazil in Minneapolis, CAPI Adawe. So CAPI, I'll turn it over to you so you can talk about this incredible development and congratulations on your role.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you, Edmundo. It's always a pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate what you both are doing for our community. Hello, everybody. My name is Katia Dahl. Many of you might know me from this group. I'm also the president of Citizens for Global Solutions Minnesota. And from time to time, I come and share in this meeting our educational events that we host mostly on Zoom about several human rights topics. I graduated in law about 300 years ago. I also work in an immigration law firm from California. In March, after receiving the proper diplomatic authorization from the US Department of State, I and my colleague Jordana Matos were appointed as honorary consul and vice honorary consul of Brazil in Minnesota. Jordana could not be here today, so I'm representing the group. These appointments represent a recognition of the importance of Minnesota for Brazil, as well as the contribution of Brazilians to Minnesota's economy and society. The Brazilian community is the third largest in the US Midwest, after only Illinois and Michigan, with approximately 8,000 Brazilians, most of them with dual citizenship like Jordan and me, or are permanent residents. In addition, in the past few years, there has been an important increase in foreign direct investment in both directions, and the strengthening of economy, trade, cultural, and scientific ties between Brazil and Minnesota. As a way of example, today we have several multinationals that have offices in Brazil and in Minnesota and employ a significant number of Brazilians, such as 3M, United Health Group, General Mills, Cargill, Tennant, FICO, Ecolab, CHS, which, by the way, has an office in the small city in the state of São Paulo where my parents live. JBS, which is a Brazilian company that bought a big pork company in Worthington, Minnesota. Well, the figures of honorary consul and vice consul are provided for in the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations in wide jurisdictions such as the General Consulate of Chicago with 11 states. It's essential to have honorary consulates to assist the career consulate in tasks such as emergency consular assistance, strengthening the ties and unity of the Brazilian community, organizing itinerant consulates, trade missions, and activities of commercial, cultural, educational, science, technology, and innovation promotion. The honorary consuls serve as a channel of communication between Minnesota institutions and the Consulate General of Brazil in Chicago. And finally, let me share with you what I just heard today. I just learned today. The Consulate General of Brazil in Chicago is organizing, in partnership with the organization Mujeres Latinas en Acción, a series of workshops of gender-based violence and child abuse prevention. These workshops will provide information and basic tools aimed at the identification, prevention, and response to gender violence, sexual harassment, and child abuse. It aims at raising awareness and providing training for community leaders, consulate staff, honorary consuls, and members of our community willing to engage in efforts to overcome violence against women, girls, and children. The events will be held in English only, and you can participate either online or in person. If you are interested, please register for the first two workshops through the direct link that I will put in the chat if it's okay with you, Michelle and Edmundo, that I will put right now. And if any of you have any questions for me or Jordana, please feel free to email us. I will also leave my email address in the chat, or you can contact Michelle and Edmundo, and they will give you my email address, I promise. I'm very happy to chat with you and your organizations and find ways to collaborate. Thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Very excited that Brazil now has a consulate here. It's for so long, so many people have been coming to Twin Cities in Minnesota from Brazil, and it's good. It's all very good, very exciting. So thank you so much. Are there any questions? If not, we can move on. We do have a question. Question? Someone's raising their hand. Who was it? No? All right. All right. Well,
I think that there is
so
a question in the chat too, Edmundo, on whether there's contact information available. And I see, Katia, there's your email. Is that the best way to communicate to learn more at present? Is there?
Yes,
sounds good.
This is my email. You will find me anywhere with this email.
Okay. Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you, and congratulations again. Very exciting.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Just very quickly, I'm sorry I was running late today. I'm Edmundo Lijo. I'm an assistant city attorney with the city of St. Paul, and I run the immigrant and refugee program for the city of St. Paul. And I co-host this forum with Michelle, and just happy to have everybody here. Very thankful, Katia, for joining us. And next we have David Pegg and Jonathan Moeller here from the Attorney General's office. David and Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
John and I are, as Edmundo just said, we're from the Attorney General's office here with the state of Minnesota. John works specifically with as the Assistant Attorney General with the Wage and Theft Unit, and I'm an investigator with within the general area of consumer protection, which also includes the Wage Theft Unit and a Special Outreach and Protection Unit. I don't know, John, would you like to tell more about the Attorney General's office or the Wage Theft Unit in particular before we talk?
Sure, yeah. The office in 2019 wage theft was made a criminal offense in Minnesota, and at the same time, the Attorney General's office received explicit authority from the legislature to enforce Minnesota's wage protections. So our unit was created in 2019, and the work we do ranges from overtime to minimum wage and migrant worker protections, as well as we have investigations about illegal uses of illegal non-competes for low-wage workers, and a big variety of stuff. And our work often intersects with immigration issues because sometimes we have workers who are undocumented, and it's the office's position that anyone who does work in Minnesota is entitled to be paid according to the law. So we occasionally have to deal with issues that come up, and David and I recently dealt with an issue in an investigation against a dairy farm in Minnesota, and I'll let David talk a little bit more about that.
So as John was saying, the state of Minnesota, the law of Minnesota protects all workers regardless of their immigration status. And here, like in a lot of areas of Minnesota, there is a workplace with a lot of undocumented workers, and most were from Mexico, but also speaking Spanish as a second language, speaking an indigenous language as their principal language, and I speak Spanish as a second language, and so there's another level, another filter, another barrier for us to meet, in addition to the owner of this facility allegedly making threats to get people to essentially deported back to Mexico, taking advantage of their precarious immigration status in order to get them to comply specifically with what needed to be done, which also included accepting wage theft, as reported by the workers. We're wanting to talk about this today because in early January, the Department of Homeland Security issued a new guidance called deferred action in cases of labor disputes. And when people are involved in a labor dispute, and if they do not have immigration status, and understanding that people may be fearful to come forward in a public nature, that they'll give them deferred action, and deferred meaning a postponed status, meaning that no action will be taken against them for not having a legal status in the country at the time being, and they can essentially be here without fear of retribution of immigration consequences while valid. So we have this investigation going on, and it's been going on since September, and it's going very slow. People are afraid to come forward to us. And one person in particular who had a lot of information, who would have been able to speak with us but was very fearful, was eventually arrested, and he was for something related to driving without driving privileges, and he gets in a removal proceeding, and an organization, a grassroots organization that works directly in the area, reached out to a local nonprofit, legal services nonprofit, advocates for human rights, typically with Lindsay, I believe she's here, and they reached out to us and let us know about this new policy that just had been issued. Within days, we got notice of this person's arrest. So we had to write a letter of support saying this person is important for our investigation. Please take a pause in removal proceedings and grant them a deferred action, a deferred status. I'm sure there's a lawyer here who will be able to explain better about this. And this is really just intended to be a teaser. What we're saying is there's this new policy, and we were able to take advantage of it. We were able to get a positive result. The person was granted deferred action, and now they've been granted continued presence. And it's really opened up our investigation. It's allowed us to speak with him, but he's also been in contact with a lot of other current and former workers. And so I believe next month, what we wanted to do today was just let people know that this is a process that's been talked about in the community. This is one of the first cases locally where we've been able to take advantage of this process. And we wanted to kind of give people a firsthand account of how it can be, that it can happen and how it can happen. And next month, as we continue our internal discussions, by next month, we hope to have a public discussion more about how we can take advantage of it, because it gives all state and local labor agencies have authority to write these letters of support.
That's super. Thank you so much, David and Jonathan. And just for others who are in the audience, if you're not speaking, if you could mute yourself, I think that may help with regard to reverb and other static on the line. So if it's possible to mute yourself if you're not speaking, that would be super. I also just want to quickly share that the deferred action pathway that David is speaking about, I just put a link into the chat. We've briefly mentioned this at a previous Twin Cities Immigration Forum. And Jonathan and David, I know you're planning on coming back probably in May to discuss this a bit further, but want to give people an opportunity to review the pathway and formulate questions to bring to our next Twin Cities Immigration Forum. But certainly if people have questions right now, based on the information that's been shared, invite our audience members to ask questions that you may have right now. In the meanwhile, if there's contact information that you may want to share with the audience at this point, a point of contact, whether at the Attorney General's office or another resource that you would suggest, David and Jonathan would invite you to share that information with our audience. Thank you, David. Appreciate you sharing your contact information. Are there any questions or any last things, comments, encounters with this new procedure, a new opportunity and way for people to obtain deferred action, and in addition, a way for people to obtain additional protection if they are involved in labor disputes? Any last thoughts or questions that people may want to bring up on this topic? Well, thank you very much, Jonathan and David, for hopping on the Twin Cities Immigration Forum today. Really appreciate the information that you've shared. It's very encouraging to hear that an individual who was facing pretty dire immigration straits was able to get on a pathway to greater immigration stability through this pathway and through working with the Attorney General's office.
Thank you for having us, and we'll look forward to continuing the conversation in the future.
I echo what David said. Thank you.
Super. And just going to our agenda, the next topic that we have is legislative updates, and just want to check to make sure the individuals that we have on to speak are actually with us. So I'm just looking in the chat here. Assistant Commissioner Abdul Wahab Mohammed, not sure if you are on yet, or Kali Pliego.
I don't see the Assistant Commissioner, Michelle.
Okay, well, we'll just continue moving through the agenda, and I do see Howard Dodson here. So maybe if it's all right, Howard, if we turn to you, I know that you were going to share some information with us about remembering Syrians and the Syrian refugee community. So please turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor to be with you. My name is Howard, and I've been to Beirut 3 times in Amman, Jordan, over the last 6 years, supporting Syrian refugees with a consortium of NGOs that the UN supports. In Lebanon, there's 1.5 million Syrian refugees. Turkey, there's 3.5 million. Jordan, there's 1.5 million. And there continues to be a refugee camp in Lesbos, Greek island. And April 19th last year, I had a letter in the New York Times comparing and contrasting our response to the Ukrainian refugee crisis, how we seem to have forgotten the Syrians. It took an earthquake and 51,000 casualties for us to finally remember the Syrians again. They've been in refugee camps for 12 years. Many of them are in former Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon. We have ISIS and Al-Qaeda trying to recruit these kids. So there's a lot of counterterrorism measures that needed to be in effect to keep these kids from going the wrong path. 6 years ago, I shared my concerns with Senate Armed Services and Senate Foreign Relations. One block from where I was staying in Beirut, the Lebanese military picked up a 50-member ISIS cell. So between the earthquake and the political crisis and economic crisis in Lebanon, Syrian refugees need a pathway, just like what was provided for the Ukrainians, the 134 program. We need something for Syrian refugees because Trump and his Islamophobic policy of the 4 years of that Muslim ban denied Syrian refugees compassion and common sense. There should have been many Syrian refugees arriving at our airports over these years, and they've been stuck in these camps. Things are different each country. In Turkey, they're able to be outside the camps. Lebanon, they can be outside the camps. But in Jordan, they're not allowed to be outside the camp. They live in the shadows in Amman because they can't be out in the public. These kids struggle with being forced to panhandle in order to have a pillow to put their head on. And I encourage folks to remember Charlie Wilson's War. It's a movie that came out a while ago. And in that movie, at the end of the movie, he got $1 billion for Stinger missiles. But he couldn't get $1 million for the Afghani refugee children. Those boys became the Taliban. So I've been sharing that video clip from Charlie Wilson's War with the senators and Senate Foreign Relations and Senate Armed Services. That we need to take care of these Syrian refugee children. Because if we don't, we're going to inherit the wind again. We went through 20 years of war in Afghanistan because our global community didn't take care of the Afghani refugee children. And I fear we're repeating the same mistake with the Syrian refugee children. So I've been asking Senate Foreign Relations to have a special hearing.
¿Encontró que le abrieran?
Hi everyone, if you can mute yourself, the person who's speaking in Espanol, if se puede mutear, thank you. Okay, Howard, please go ahead.
So I've been asking Senate Foreign Relations to have a special hearing that looks at restorative justice for 4 years of the Muslim ban. I realize there's other demographics other than Syrians, but I think there's special circumstances in Idlib province, which was hit by that earthquake. And because that's the only rebel-held territory left in the civil war, they can't get adequate support from Damascus. And the travel points between Turkey and Idlib province were undermined by the earthquake. So to me, there's compelling humanitarian reasons to afford a 134 program for Syrian refugees. And I'm asking folks to call your senator, your congressional rep, and urge a Senate Foreign Relations hearing, and for President Biden to make an executive order. And if it takes legislation, that the Senate Foreign Relations Committee introduce a bill that provides restorative justice for 4 years of that Muslim ban. The other thing that I want to lift up is Michelle's been sharing with me the little Amal, the Syrian puppet. There's an article that she's in Toronto right now, and she's been traveling the world reminding people about the Syrian children. Those little Picassos that I made art with in Beirut, they stole my heart 6 years ago. I will never forget them, and I want to see them at MSP Airport, starting new and brighter future.
Howard, is there something that people can do right now to help in bringing this matter to the attention of the Senate?
Call your senators, Klobuchar Smith. Call your representative. Gene Phillips is still on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congresswoman Omar got kicked off. And with the Republican control of the House, I'm skeptical. But Tom Emmer is a GOP majority whip. So if there's anyone in the GOP that could possibly get this on the other side of the aisle as well, because my argument is that this is a counterterrorism measure. Remember Charlie Wilson's ward? He was a Republican from Texas. He got it. We need to find bipartisan support from our Minnesota congressional delegation to urge that committee hearing for President Biden to do the right thing.
Thank you, Howard. Any questions for Howard?
And Howard, if you could also share your contact information if people wanted to connect with you in the chat. I know that there are some links that you had sent to me in case people are looking for more information on this topic. And I'm putting those links into the chat right now. And we'll also share them with notes from today's meeting. But invite people who may have questions for Howard. Feel free to ask any question that you might have, raise your hand or just shout it out. Thank you for your email.
If we don't have any further questions, thank you so much, Howard. This is such an important issue, and thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome, and appreciate you being here. Michelle, I see that Assistant Commissioner Adiwahab is here. Mohammed, how are you?
Great. How are you, Edmundo? How are you, Michelle?
Doing well. All right. We were wondering if you could give us an update on the status of the Office of New Americans bill.
Yes, thank you. As many of you know, that there is a bill going through the House and Senate to establish an Office of New Americans within the state of Minnesota. This is an office that will primarily focus on helping immigrant and refugee communities in terms of workforce, economic development. The office will be based within DEED, Department of Employment and Economic Development, and will help and complement the work that is already being done by Edmundo and Michelle and many other stakeholders that are serving the immigrant and community and refugee communities in Minnesota. We'll focus a lot on interagency work within the state, and we'll have a council or interagency council that will work with the office to make sure the community is being served. So that's a little bit of a background about the office. The bill, there's three versions, the three bills. One is actually two bills. One is with the House, the other is in the Senate, and then we have the governor's proposal within the Minnesota budget. And the House bill is part of the omnibus jobs bill, and the Senate has already had it as a standalone bill and is still working on it. We hope that when it gets to conference committee, they will hash out the differences in the bills and make sure we have a text that will everyone agrees on. We trust our chairs in the committees and the governor's team to negotiate on that and have a bill that will represent all of our inputs. So that's where we are right now. We're hopeful that it will pass this time. We've tried it last year. It almost made it. but at the last hour it did not. So this time there's so many of you that have worked with us to get this bill through, and really highlighted the need for this office within the state agencies to make sure that we focus a lot on employment and economic development. So that's where we are. The status is just waiting for the House to come back from the break next week, start working on it separately on the House and the Senate. And then
Hey, Abdul Assistant Commissioner Mohammed, I'm so sorry. I'm just going to ask for people who are on, if you could please mute yourself so we're sure to hear the speakers. Thank you so much. And forgive me, Assistant Commissioner, for interrupting you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Michelle. So just to wrap up, as far as the status of the bill, we're hoping all the different stages in the House and Senate, once it gets to the conference committee, they will work on the different versions of the bills and make sure we have one version that will be up for the governor to sign. And so and as far as timeline is concerned, we hope that the session might conclude around the same time this year, or even if it gets beyond. So around probably end of May, we should be able to and have an answer or whether it will pass or not. So that's where we're waiting on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Assistant Commissioner. And if people have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or ask directly. One question that I have, Assistant Commissioner Mohammed, is if people would like to express their opinion on the measure, express their support, what would be the best way for them to communicate, and who should they direct their comments or their opinions to?
Thank you, Michelle. There are different avenues you can and share your inputs if you want, for example, to be part of the process that the bill is going through. Of course, you can always reach out to me and send me your comments, but you also feel free to reach out to the Jobs Committee in the House, and of course, in the Jobs and Economic Development Committee in the Senate. That's Chair Champion, Senator Champion. And then I think Chair Zhang is in the House Committee that deals with the Office of New Americans. And of course, if you want to reach out to the governor's office, you're always welcome. You can either reach out to do your support for the bill, or in a way to any other comment that you have. So feel free to copy me. I put my email on the chat. And if you need contacts to all the other and individuals that I mentioned, please contact me and I'll give you the information as well.
Super. Thank you very much, Assistant Commissioner Mohammed. Really grateful that you were able to jump on and share updates regarding the Office of New Americans, and hope that this is the year that this office is funded by the legislature. And I appreciate you being here. Let's see. Edmundo, can I turn it over to you to get us through the next part of the agenda?
He's muted.
Oh, you're muted,
Yep,
Edmundo.
sorry about that. I don't see Callie on.
Yeah, it sent a message, so we'll see. I think we're to community updates.
All right. Why don't we talk about World Refugee Day and CAPI's celebration of World Refugee Day?
Hi, I can jump in. Hello.
Oh.
I'm Becca. I'm the Assistant Director of Refugee Services at CAPI. So just to tell you all a little bit about Twin Cities World Refugee Day, that will be taking place on June 11th at Centennial Park in Brooklyn Center. I will send in the chat the program poster and link to read more about it, but this is going to be a festival that celebrates the diversity and culture that refugees bring to the state, as well as raise awareness to challenges and opportunities refugees are experiencing after newly arriving to the state. There will be live performances, food and vendors from all over the world, activities for children, as well as a community resource fair. So we encourage everyone to attend, to share, and let us know if you'd like to participate in any way, whether providing additional resources or being a performer or vendor or sponsor. So like I said, I'll include all the links and contact information for that, for you to read about it and know kind of where to reach out to participate. But any questions for now?
I have a quick question.
Yep.
When you say participate in any way, is it all cultures? Latinos, Afghan?
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Becca, really excited that it's back on this year after a hiatus because of COVID. I remember it just being a lot of fun, a lot of good food, a lot of good music. So very excited.
Exactly. We're excited too. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Will you put your info in the chat?
Yes, I will put everything in the chat now.
That's super. Thank you so much, Becca. And it's so wonderful to have CAPI host this event. I know CAPI has hosted this event for a number of years, and World Refugee Day is June 20th. And so having a celebration that is so well attended and so robust is really a treasure in the Twin Cities area. So we very much appreciate CAPI. If people are interested in learning more, feel free to reach out to Becca directly. I know that the website for CAPI has a lot of information about Twin Cities World Refugee Day, in case people would like to get involved in whatever capacity, whether it's to see entertainment, eat good food, learn, actually share information in case you want a table. So invite people to reach out to Becca and CAPI to learn more in celebration of World Refugee Day this year. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate that you're able to hop on.
Yes, thank you.
And if there are any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand. Otherwise, we're going to skip back for a quick second to federal updates. We have Callie Pliego with us, who will be sharing information about a bill that was reintroduced at the federal level in Congress, the American Family United Act. So Callie, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, great. Thank you. Thanks, Michelle and Edmundo, for giving me the invitation and allowing me to talk about this bill. So the American Families United Act is a piece of federal legislation that touches on immigration law. It was introduced on March 22nd it was a bipartisan introduction in the House. So the two sponsors are Congresswoman Veronica Escobar from Texas and Congresswoman Maria Salazar from Florida. So we have a Democrat and Republican that sponsored the bill, and then there were, immediately a whole bunch of original co-sponsors that just went on when it was introduced because of the status of the bill at the end of the last Congress. But what the legislation would do is it's considered waiver reform, and so what that means is there's for family petitions, in particular, a U.S. citizen spouse or a U.S. citizen parent of a child who doesn't have immigration status, we can apply for our spouses or our children to receive a green card, and it starts a pathway, a legal pathway to adjust status. And within that pathway, there's what's called inadmissibilities, and there's like over 70 reasons why a person can be found inadmissible, and there's a range of kind of punishment for those inadmissibilities, which separates families when they get to that point. And so identifying that as a problem, the American Families United Act would serve to allow families that are in that kind of status of having to separate based on the law to be able to apply for a waiver, kind of forgiveness for what was the basis for the inadmissibility, and be able to come back together and stay in the United States. So we're really we're I can't say we're really hopeful, because of the dynamics in politics in Washington D.C., but we are kind of optimistic about what the future holds for this legislation. We had this introduction was the 6th time that we had a bipartisan introduction of the bill, and notably in the last Congress, we passed out of committee. The bill passed out of committee in the House, and it was a great push at the end of the Congress to get a House floor vote, which we weren't able to get. But slowly, but surely, the bill is getting positioned to a place where, everyone in Congress knows about this issue. Where, as an organization, I volunteer with an advocacy organization outside of my role at Minneapolis City, where we, are constantly having meetings with the city Capitol Hill staff about this issue, and just driving home the importance of what it means, what the real impacts of and the harms caused by the immigration laws. So it's common sense legislation. It fixes a small problem for, kind of a narrow community, but within that kind of, it's a subset of the undocumented community in the whole United States that are, again, married to a U.S. citizen or the child of a U.S. citizen. So that looks like stepchildren, some adopted children are undocumented and they don't know it, and can find themselves inadmissible for a number of reasons. So that's a summary of the bill, and I guess I can leave my my email in the chat, which it won't be a city email. It'll be the nonprofit email that I work for or volunteer with. If anybody, wants to reach out and ask questions, I'd be happy to answer those, via email. I don't want to take up more time from the agenda doing that, but please do feel free to reach out to me with questions.
Any questions? Callie, thank you. I would just want to say thank you, because I think this bill is really important. The current state of immigration law creates so much hardship for families. It separates families, and it's just cruel. There's not really a good policy reason for it, and I think this is such an important bill. So thank you for what you're doing to try to get it passed, and I really appreciate your efforts and appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Edmundo. And if it's okay, I'll put a congress.gov link to the bill text, and then the American Families United website. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Michelle, do we want to go to Kapal? Is Carolina here?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm here. It's good
Nice
to
to see
see
you.
you all.
Good
Thank
to
you
see
so
you.
much for the opportunity. I will be brief, but I do want to share a little bit about the work that we're doing right now with the Cumulative Impacts Bill, or also known as the Frontlines Communities Protection Act. I will add a link so that everybody can start taking a look at it if you'd like. But the website is very short and summarized as far as like who we are, what the bill is doing, and where the bill is currently at. I want to emphasize a little bit more on the tell your story. As many of you know, like we're really doing our last push to make sure that we elevate testimonials and elevate community as far as why, the cumulative impacts would help or benefit communities. And we are doing a week of action starting on the 24th of this month. So we will have a combination of infographics, videos, and directing more folks to this landing page that at that point will have a little bit more information as well to get involved. And I really am hoping, one, that if there's any connections or if there are any people that refugees, community members that you're currently working with that you think might be good to talk to, please let me know. There is the link, and I'll put it individually on there. I'll also put my contact information. And then the second piece is that we will be collaborating with Take Action and a few other organizations to do an organizing event on the 30th. And this is really to talk more about where the bill is at, talk more about what environmental justice means for community members, and really just take some time to also celebrate all the hard work that has been happening and all of the work that everybody has been doing around cumulative impacts. So again, really just to summarize the asks, one is, are there any testimonials that we could elevate on the week of the 24th? Promoting the event on the 30th, maybe if there's potential for collaborations or anything like that regarding the cumulative impacts bill, I'm more than happy to chat, and I'll include my contact information in the chat as well. But that is all. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I really appreciate the time.
That's awesome, Carolina. Thank you so much. I just have a quick question and invite others to ask questions too. If you could walk back just a teensy bit, and for people who may not yet have an orientation about the bill that you're talking about, if there's some basic information that you can provide so everyone's on the same page.
Yes, thank you. It's also on the landing page, but again, I'll add it in the chat. We tried our best to make it summarized, to make it easy to understand, but the bill would essentially, and you'll see it in bullet points, it would define environmental justice areas based on factors like income, race, and tribal status. It would require permit applicants to consider and address the cumulative impacts of new facilities, expansions of existing facilities, and then also facilities that are major sources of air pollution. It would provide regulatory protections to the communities to ensure that the facilities with certain permits and significant amount of pollution cannot be permitted. So it would truly address current major polluters as well as future projects. And we've had mixed conversations, with people that have pushed back on it. But the biggest thing is like we want to work, with local businesses. We want to really find that conversation in between of how can we work together to make sure that we have we're addressing the issue and also looking at alternatives, right? How can we work together to find alternatives and make sure that we are protecting and working and supporting the people who are directly being impacted.
Super. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting your contact information in the chat also, in case people have questions, and appreciate the links as well. If others have questions that they'd like to direct to Carolina right now, please feel free to do so. Really appreciate that you're able to make time to join us today, and your work and COPAL's work in the area of environmental justice.
Thank you. Thank you, Carolina. All right, well, next, why don't we jump to, let's see, the Catherine Tran from the Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit is here. Tell us about, there's a event coming up.
Yeah, thank you everyone for giving me the space and time to speak about it. So the Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit is a nonprofit organization. We've been around in the Twin Cities since 2019, really focusing on immigrant entrepreneurship. So supporting those that are new to business. So just those thinking about starting a business, and up to, I would say, about 5 years of doing business. So those that are still growing and scaling. So our summit is really meant to help be a supportive network for a variety of people from different backgrounds. So we have a very diverse group that will be coming out to the summit. We're looking for partners in this to help spread the word. There's going to be workshops, an awards ceremony that will celebrate immigrant entrepreneurship and success, and then networking, of course. So ways that people can find resources to grow their business or to help their communities. So yeah, it is really meant to be that space that that is inclusive and welcoming for those that are maybe not as familiar with the business world, in terms of, they might have been from a culture or background that is very different than American entrepreneurship. So it's made to be accessible. I'll put the link to our website on there. I would, of course, appreciate any attendance from this group, but we would also love to invite you as partners as well. So there's different ways, sponsors and exhibitors. So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And again, the date was.
Oh yes, sorry, I should have said that. It's Wednesday, May 17th. It's a full day event from 8:30 till about 3:30, and it will be at Base Camp Leadership Center in Fort Snelling.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
I attended that summit, was it last year? And it was very good. A lot of good information, met a lot of people. So I'd encourage everyone to take a look at it, and if you can fit it in, attend. All right, Michelle, that gets us to updates from the cities of St. Paul and Minneapolis, I believe.
Yep, and I think there's one for you and one for me. One of the things that we wanted to highlight is jobs. At the city of Minneapolis, there are a number of job opportunities, one in the department where the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs is located. Neighborhood and Community Relations is hiring for a community specialist to work with the disability community. So I will put that job opportunity as well as the link to view all jobs that are available at the city of Minneapolis in the chat, and encourage people to reach out if they have questions, and also spread the word about opportunities at the city of Minneapolis. And I'm going to turn it to you for St. Paul.
Sure. The city attorney's office is looking for a victim witness assistant to assist the domestic violence unit with preparing witnesses for trial and for providing support to those victims. So we'll put that link to that open position as well in the chat or in the notes, so that people can see and take a look, and if they're interested. Also welcome to contact me if you're interested, given that it's an opportunity within the city attorney's office, and I can connect you with the folks who are in charge of looking for someone in that position.
Yep. Can I just share one little thing? Because for people who may not have access to the chat, I know there was a question from Kelly if there are any scholarship opportunities for the $35 registration fee. And Catherine, I know you've indicated that if you know of business owners that would like scholarships, that they can reach out to you directly. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely. So I know if they don't have the access to the chat, that would be difficult, but it's Catherine at iesusa.org is my email, and people can reach out to me directly. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. And we'll also make sure that Catherine's email is available in the notes, so that people can connect with Catherine should they be interested in a scholarship. Next, we are holding our monthly citizenship fair and immigration information fair this Saturday, April 15th at Leap High School in St. Paul on North Albert Street in St. Paul. We will have legal service providers available to answer questions about naturalization and other immigration issues. We will have English language providers, as well as providers who help people prepare for the citizenship test, as well as Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, who provides loans for naturalization, and other financial partners who may be able to discuss mortgages and other products. So we will put a flyer to the event in the notes, because I don't know if we can get it into the chat, And,
yeah, I don't think we can. And I think we did share it by email to this group. So if you haven't received it and want to receive it, please do reach out directly. And maybe also, like, if you know of people who are interested in exploring citizenship and may be interested in attending this event on Saturday, but are on the fence perhaps or have transportation issues, please do reach out to Edmundo and myself, because there are so many resource providers at this event that we want to make sure that people are able to access it. So don't hesitate to reach out to Edmundo and myself, and I'll put our contact information into the chat too.
All right. Michelle, did you want to talk about the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Film Festival?
Yes, so just very briefly, the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Film Festival begins today and runs through April 27th. If you visit the website, you can see all of the films that will be playing from all over the world, including here in Minnesota, at the festival. It's a really exciting opportunity to learn about different cultures through film. And I know that the film festival has run, I believe it's been decades. So it truly is a Twin Cities institution, and invite people to learn more, visit the website, and attend some of the films if you have the capacity to do so.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, I guess at this point we see if there's any additional immigration or community updates that people would like to share with the group. Please unmute and share what you would like to share with us.
You can put information into the chat as well. And while people are thinking if there are things you'd like to share, I also want to talk about another flyer that was also emailed to this group. It was a welcome to Minneapolis flyer. At least I think we sent it. And given that there are a number of newcomers to the Twin Cities, some of whom may not be able to easily navigate resources and supports, including in the areas of transportation, access to food distribution centers, healthcare facilities, shelter, and more. The city of Minneapolis has put together this quick one-pager in multiple languages that has a telephone number and short link to resources to help people find their footing in the city of Minneapolis. There's a QR code on there as well that directs people to the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs. So if you encounter someone who is new to the city and new to the country, this may be a way for people to start to learn about resources that exist that can help people find their footing here. So I will resend just in case I think I did send to this group, but those flyers are available in a number of different languages. And if there are follow-up questions, please do reach out.
All right. I think if no further questions or updates, we can call it early today, and we'll give you back 28 minutes. Thank you so much for joining us. Please attend the Naturalization Fair and Immigration Fair if you're able on Saturday. We'd appreciate passing the word and letting people know about the fair. And as always, if you have any issues or announcements you'd like to add to the forum, please reach out to Michelle or I, and we'll get it on the agenda. And look forward to seeing everyone next month.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody. Don't hesitate to reach out if you'd like to propose a topic for a future Twin Cities Immigration Forum. We're very grateful that you decided to spend your hour with us today. Very grateful to our speakers who joined us today, and hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you all.
Thank you, Michelle.
Take care.
Thank you, Edmundo.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, guys. All right.